happening? This is Len Davis with Pangeality Productions, and we're here at the Seattle Center in Seattle, Washington. And it is late April 2012, and currently at the Seattle Center is the celebration of the next 50 years ago. The World's Fair came to the city of Seattle and was all about the future. The monorail was built and the Space Needle, and the 50-year celebration of that original vision comes down to a giant celebration this year throughout the next 6 months. So we're here at Seattle Center, and one of the elements of that is the Earth portal. And it just so happens that it dates back to my connection to my main man who grew up in the great city of Brookline with me, Mr. Toshi Anders Hoo. And Toshi, amazingly, is the director of the film celebrating the Earth portal here in Seattle and has been rocking it. And I'm fucking thrilled to be here to learn more about it and check it for the first time. So Tosh, what's going on here?
Well, welcome to the Earth portal. It's a project of the Whidbey Geodome project, which is a project of new stories. We are a group of people, of artists, thinkers, and folks that believe in trying to show alternative ways of living. And we think that part of having an alternative way of living is having an alternative story about how life works. So this is a little portal into one view of the universe and return back to Earth. It's an immersive film. You'll see in a moment. It takes place in a large inflatable dome. It's 6 meters in diameter. It seats about 22 people. And we're showing a half-hour immersive film. It's, as I mentioned, it commemorates the 1962 World's Fair. This was also right here. This Seattle Center was the site of the very first immersive film 50 years ago at that fair, called Journey to the Stars. So as an immersive media producer, and there's very few of those being made, it's an honor to honor not only the fair, but the medium of dome production itself.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So over the next couple months, you're going to be sharing the film here with a vast global audience. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, whoever comes through, apparently they're anticipating 8 million people throughout the 6 months that the exhibition's happening. And on here, this is another one of our partners right here on the wall here. This is the Buckminster Fuller Institute. They're doing the Buckminster Fuller Challenge, which is a cool design competition every year for sustainable technology design. Come on this way. You'll notice that there's a lot of decoration. Don't look over there. That's where the project's being finished. But you'll notice there's a lot of incredible decorations here, and we really want to make sure that we're not just taking people a place in their minds, but also making sure that they're going to be able to connect to parts of the natural world here as well. So come on in the dome. It's going to be a little loud because it's an inflatable dome. You can see here, watch this. Kind of bounce off it. This has been my office for 3 months. I inflate my office in the morning. We go inside the dome.
The Earth portal! Da-na-na-na!
Yeah, so we're here in the Earth portal. As I mentioned, it's a geodesic dome. It's created by Illuminati. It's an incredible company, and they make these basically immersive theaters. And there's about, I think, upwards of 7 or 8, maybe a couple more of these around the country, and they're part of what's known as the Worldviews Network. And the Worldviews Network has created this platform, these inflatable domes. They'll sell you this dome, they'll sell you this fisheye projector right here as a complete package with the fans and everything you need, and a computer to run it. And then they provide you with the software called, well, I don't know if I should say the software name, but it's this thing called the Digital Universe Atlas, and it's the collection of like $50 billion worth of research over the last 50 years. Different surveys, different telescopic, trackings, work with the Hubble telescope, work of deep space probes, and a lot of radio telescopes looking out deep into the outreaches of the universe. We're looking not only outward, but as we look outward with these radio telescopes, the light takes so long to travel to us, we're also looking back in time. So what you're about to see a little sample of is a tour not only of the universe, but of all of time as well. We're going to go back to the edge of the beginning of the universe. that makes any sense.
Take it away.
Alright. So, I know it's a little noisy. Just give you a little spattering. We start by grounding the show in the memory of the 1962 World's Fair. So you need the flip cam fisheye setup, man. So you can see this is a promo from the 1962 World's Fair. Many of the people who come to this show will have just taken this very monorail ride to get to this theater. This theater is right beneath the monorail station. As you'll see in a minute, when the couple pulls up to the station, well, there's no EMP, of course, but oops, my render's done. So they're pulling into the station, and basically right there is where our theater is. So people will have taken this ride and gotten off the monorail, and we start the film with that vision from the past. So there's a lot of circular trips in this film where we bring people back, and we take them out and we bring them back, and take them out and bring them back. There's a lot of cycles and circles. So you can see Space Needle there. So that's the opening of the show. This is kind of the middle of the show. This is the first kind of movement of the piece, and it's called The Journey Outward, and follows kind of the mythical heroic journey of basically we start off on Earth and then we slowly pull back and we visit a bunch of phenomena, cosmological phenomena, and we also visit basically cosmological maps over the history and all the information we create. So right now we're looking at a visualization or a map of what's called the magnetosphere. It's a visualization of the magnetic field around Earth that actually protects the atmosphere from being blown away by the solar flares. If we didn't have this magnetic shield, essentially, that's generated by the molten iron core of our own planet, basically all of the water and atmosphere would have blown off the planet long ago from solar flares. Incidentally, I just learned too from a researcher that there's extensive research into looking at how the magnetosphere and solar flares affect human creativity on the planet Earth. There's a direct correlation between reduced solar activity and the Renaissance and a couple other very creative periods of human history. Amazing stuff. So
nice.
now,
So a lot of this data right here and the information, the imagery that we're seeing, much of it comes from NASA, you said?
yes, well right now we're looking at an overlay. So we're seeing two things here. This is an artistic overlay that shows the kind of the Ptolemaic cosmology of imagining that the Earth was at the center of everything, and that there was we were at the center of the universe, but there was all these concentric spheres around us that were the heavenly spheres. They literally thought that the stars were painted on them. And the irony is that even though we're at the center of this, they consider that to be the worst place. It was like hell, essentially. You were trapped there. The Earth in the middle was what's called the blue marble data, which is NASA puts together from thousands of satellite photos mapped together into a super high resolution image of the Earth. Now we're shifting paradigms into the Copernican cosmology, where heliocentric, where we believe that the Earth was at where we believe that the Sun was at the center. So a lot of this show, I'm not going to tell you everything about it, but a lot of this show has to do with paradigm shift and perspective and what happens and how our observations or what we perceive creates. Humans need to create meaning out of what we perceive, and so we tell stories. And it's these stories that encode the meaning of all these observations. So for instance here, it's not just mapping where the planets are, but they divided it all up into the 12 zodiac, and eventually was related to constellations that you'll see in a minute. Anyway, the show is essentially about being able to look at your maps and being able to look at your stories and then consider new stories and consider the idea that maybe if you have a different kind of story, you might take a different kind of action. I'm going to jump ahead.
Please do.
So we fly out through the edge of the edge. Oh, there's the Milky Way. We keep going, and we see other galaxies, and we visit what's called the cosmic butterfly. Now we come to the edge, and this is the edge. This is the cosmic microwave background. This is a visualization that represents spatially far out. We're ridiculously far out. We're basically 13.7 billion light years out. Billion light years. That's billion years that light would have to travel to get here. So we're looking back in time, I guess, as well. But there's no sphere out there. What this is visualizing is the edge of human perception. That basically, if we suppose that. If we suppose that light, excuse me.
Yeah,
if we suppose that light can travel at the speed of light and no faster, then this is the maximum distance. If we also assume that the Big Bang happened 13.7 billion years ago, this is as far as light could have traveled to us from any of these points. Beyond this sphere that's being visualized, that's not actually there. Things couldn't have reached us at this point unless they can travel faster than the speed of light. That'll never happen. And this is kind of the edge of our tour. This is the model. This is the digital atlas. So NASA put this together, or a company put this atlas together by combining all the different data sets from different scientific organizations from all around the world, and combined it into basically a collection of data sets that you can fly around through in three-dimensional space and time with a little Sony PlayStation gaming controller. So basically, it's a real-time navigation system for the known universe.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And so with your film here and the way that this whole setup works, you can both show a film that you've created that many people will pass through, but simultaneously you can also use the same software to put on a live show. Can you explain that?
So the software is meant to be used in a live setting with a live operator for planetariums, essentially. But they also allow you to export or render out a movie file. So that's what we did. So this, what we have here at the Earth Report, if you come down and visit us, is a 30-minute immersive movie that's been rendered out. They play it. It's essentially the same every hour. It's still very cool, and people come back and see it many times. We also have the capability of doing this live. So actually, our team is in the pre-production for creating a live version of this show. So we're going to start doing those as performances here in the evening with a live. You'll hear there's music. We have a composer comes and plays the music live. Our narrator does the narration live, and we actually do the flying live and the video mixing live. And we'll probably add in some extra elements that aren't in this film that you can only do in a live setting. And we're also working on adding in interactive capabilities both for the musicians as well as the audience. So we're going to basically capture all the 3D motion in the room with the 3D stereoscopic motion capture camera. And then imagine if you could reach up and there's galaxies around you and talk about the story about how just the idea that one of the things we've started to observe is that by observing things we change them, and that things aren't things. We have relationships to things, and our understandings of those things come from those relationships. And people can have multiple relationships with the same thing, and so anyway, it makes everything a little bit more less deterministic and fixed, and but opens up a lot more opportunity. And for humanity, we really need to see a lot more opportunities right now because we've really closed a lot of. We're shutting down our planet basically, and we need to think really outside of the box. So we're literally outside the box, and we're in the dome.
Awesome. Can you jump to some of the sort of layered images with the...
Yeah, so this is a section of the show called Isomorphism, and it's part of the show is structured in a hero's journey myth, and this is part of the return journey. So the separation stage of the hero's journey starts with detachment. So that's how we go far, far away from Earth. And there's a turning point in the show. I won't tell you what it is. You should come and see the show and see it. And then as you fly back to Earth from the edge of the cosmic microwave background, we introduce this idea of not facts about everything we've learned, and not points in space, but relationships between shapes and patterns. And how they echo throughout culture and nature and spirituality and cosmology. So again, we look at simple shapes, and then we base our ideas off those observations. We start to make designs We study patterns in nature. We integrate them into our own architecture and our artwork. And it's more than that. It's more than just those patterns, because then those patterns get more complex and get woven into stories. And again, that's what our organization is really trying to do, is suggest not just new stories, but new ways of creating stories, and new ways of looking at stories, and new ways of participating in stories. That's one of the unique things about this immersive environment here, is that the audience is not just watching a show, they're literally inside the show. And as I mentioned, we're going to have the interactivity, so they'll actually be participating in the creation of the show.
Fresh.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
I'll jump to the end to biophilia, the crescendo of the show, and that's basically the return to Earth. There's a lot of planetarium shows that take you out and show you the stars and the universe, and show you how vast the world is, and we wanted to try to do that to some extent, but we also wanted to make sure that we didn't make people leave feeling like just a speck on a speck on a speck in the middle of nowhere. Because also what we've learned is not just that we can look outward, but that when you realize that it is your relationship to everything, that is your relationship to things that defines what they are and who you are, but that those relationships echo throughout nature, and generations of humans have gathered knowledge by understanding nature and integrating with nature, by seeing patterns and weaving them into stories and cosmologies and religions, spiritual practices. So we see that as a pathway towards weaving our own stories in the future. So I'll jump to biophilia and just show you a couple of things from there. It's a return to Earth, it's a return to home, and life. It's a love of life. I'll put the music on even.
Up and out to the stars. What can you imagine these next 50 years will bring?
Come back to.
So yeah, that's a sampling of biophilia. Obviously, it's an immersive experience, hard to capture in a flat screen camera. But yeah, it's experimental. The show's experimental. I try as a public art piece to make sure it could appeal to a lot of different people. I hope that's the case. I think it's beautiful, and I see people leaving here with a sense of wonder and excitement, and for me that's success. And it was a powerful project for me to do with everybody on the team. We all were very transformed. So I actually really believe that you can't enter into this portal without being somewhat changed by the end. If you don't fall asleep. It's very comfy in here too. Anyway, what else, Len?
So, super fresh. It's Len Davis with Pangelity Productions, and I'm here with my main man, Toshi Anders Hoo. We're old friends from childhood in Brookline, Massachusetts, who have reconnected years later here in Seattle. Toshi's been in the scene for the past couple months working on this project. We're at the Seattle Center in late April 2012 celebrating the next 50, and Back to the Future, One Love at the Earth Portal, and this amazing film. And your role again in this film was?
Facilitator and weaver and director of the project.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So super fresh. Check it out if you're in the Seattle area, and otherwise just much love all around. Thanks so
Coming
much.
down, we're underneath the monorail. Right underneath the monorail, open Thursday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 7 or 5 p.m. But come on down, check us out. There's a giant piece of wood in the window. You can't miss us.
Thanks so much.
Peace out.
Stay fresh.